March 12, 1944. Fort Riley, Kansas. Snowflakes swirl across the parade ground as a long line of trucks grinds to a halt, their wheels cutting tracks into the frozen mud. Sergeant Karl Heinemann, a 23-year-old German infantryman, recently captured in the Italian campaign, steps down from the rear of the transport, shivering beneath his thin uniform. His eyes sweep over the barbed wire fences topped with watchtowers, the distant silhouettes of American MPs with Thompson submachine guns patrolling the perimeter. The crisp air is pierced by barking commands in English, and yet the soldiers move with an almost mechanical politeness, guiding the POWs toward the camp gate. Heinemann's stomach knots. He remembers the field hospitals behind the front lines in Italy. Dark tents, freezing floors, bleeding men lying without clean bandages or proper medicine. Yet today, he cannot shake the uneasy sense that something is different. Once inside, the prisoners are escorted through a series of orderly buildings that glint white under the winter sun. Nurses in clean white uniforms offer hot cocoa and blankets, gesturing in careful German phrases taught for such occasions. Heinemann hesitates, unsure if this is a trap or some form of mockery. "Kommen Sie here," a nurse urges gently, guiding him toward the hospital ward. The warmth from the radiators is almost suffocating after weeks of cold marches, and the smell of antiseptic fills the air. Rows of cots are neatly arranged, each with clean sheets, pillows, and a small metal basin beside it. Heinemann's eyes widen as a medic applies a fresh bandage to a fellow prisoner's arm, working quickly but carefully, pausing to ask if it hurts. I don't understand," the soldier whispers to his friend. Why are they treating us like this?" So, across the ward, a group of POWs stare silently at a table where vials of penicillin glimmer under the lamp. Word spreads quickly. Injections are available, and infections that would have been fatal back home are now being cured. Heinemann takes his own seat, hands trembling as he removes his tattered sleeve, revealing a shallow wound from an artillery splinter. The medic, Lieutenant Grace McAllister, smiles reassuringly, her voice calm yet firm, and prepares the injection with practiced ease. Heinemann flinches, expecting ridicule or harshness, but only feels relief as the sting passes and a cool antiseptic balm is applied. Around him, whispers of disbelief thread through the ward. Many POWs murmur that they have never seen such care, that American hospitals seem warmer, brighter, and more organized than those of the Wehrmacht. For the first time since capture, Heinemann allows himself a measure of hope, though it is tangled with confusion and unease. Outside, snow continues to drift, but inside these walls, something unfamiliar has taken root, a fragile sense of security, even in the midst of war. April 3rd, 1944. Camp Hearn, Texas. The Texas sun beats down mercilessly on the barbed wire enclosures, dust rising under the boots of German prisoners as they are herded toward the hospital tent for routine checkups. Unteroffizier Friedrich Bauer wipes sweat from his brow and squints at the sprawling canvas, expecting chaos, shouting, and fear, the kind of harsh treatment he endured in the Feldlazaret near Normandy. Instead, he is met with calm efficiency, orderly lines, orderly cots, and American medics calling names with polite precision. Nurse Patricia Collins hands out ice-cold water and checks wounds with gloved hands, her eyes scanning the faces for signs of infection or distress. Bauer's friend, Gefreiter Dietrich Schumann, whispers incredulously, They're giving us clean sheets, food and medicine, better than what we had in Italy." The men shuffle past rows of cots where POWs receive penicillin for minor infections, bandages replaced without complaint, and nutritious meals served on metal trays that rival the fare American soldiers receive. One young POW, barely 19, smiles timidly as a medic adjusts his cast, and Bauer notices tears welling in his eyes, emotions he has long suppressed. Across the ward, a German officer pores over the ration logs, stunned that each prisoner is allotted sufficient calories, including fresh vegetables and milk, far surpassing the meager, sometimes spoiled, provisions at the front. Outside the tent, the distant hum of a jeep and the sharp bark of orders provide the only reminder that this is still a prison. But inside, the prisoners begin to murmur among themselves, comparing notes. Letters sent home describe astonishment. "The Americans treat us with dignity, with care. We cannot believe it," one reads. Bauer touches the clean metal bed frame, feeling a shiver of disbelief. In his experience, kindness was a rare commodity, often given selectively and always tinged with suspicion. Here, it is routine. Even the small details, the neatly folded blankets, the personal attention to hygiene, the gentle yet firm instructions on post-operative care, signal a system designed for recovery rather than punishment. The contrast to his memory of Wehrmacht hospitals is stark. Tents caked with mud, men left unattended for hours, inadequate pain relief, and an endless parade of death around every corner. Bauer realizes that the American war machine, brutal in combat yet meticulous in care, has engineered a paradoxical space where enemies are sustained rather than exploited. He glances at Nurse Collins, who smiles encouragingly before moving to the next patient, and he cannot reconcile her kindness with the hatred he has been taught to feel. Some prisoners begin journaling, their pens shaking as they attempt to describe the surreal environment. Warmth, nourishment, medical attention, and above all, a respect for human life that seemed absent from the Wehrmacht field hospitals. For Bauer and countless others, the experience becomes a quiet revelation, sowing seeds of reflection that will linger long after the war's end. And as the afternoon sun filters through the tent, illuminating the pale faces of POWs receiving their treatment, Bauer feels the strange pull of gratitude, an emotion he had never expected to feel toward those who had captured him. Continue to generate the next section. Include this placeholder at the start, June 7th, 1944, Camp Funston, Nebraska. The prairie wind sweeps across the barracks as Unteroffizier Karl Meyer sits at a small wooden desk, pen in hand, writing cautiously to his family in Dresden. His uniform is clean, his bandages fresh, and for the first time in months, he eats 3 full meals a day. He hesitates, staring at the paper, struggling to find words that will capture the surreal nature of his circumstances. "Dear Mutter and Vater," he begins, "I cannot believe the care we receive here. The doctors and nurses treat us better than our own wounded ever were." Outside, the hospital hums with activity. Medics wheel stretchers with surgical patients past orderly lines of cots, the rhythmic clatter of trays and the soft murmur of English instructions blending into a strange lullaby of order and safety. Meyer pauses, biting his lip. He wants to convey the truth, but fears judgment. Letters are censored, and the notion that American captors could surpass the Wehrmacht in medical competence feels almost treacherous to admit. Fellow POWs, including the younger Freiter Klaus Reinhardt, gather around tables in the mess hall during breaks, whispering stories of penicillin curing infections that would have been fatal back home, of wounds cleaned and dressed with meticulous care, of nurses gently tending to those in pain. Reinhardt shakes his head in disbelief. They care for us as if we were one of their own, not like soldiers of the enemy. Their conversations are punctuated by the occasional bark of an American guard, but the tone is overwhelmingly incredulous, a mixture of awe and confusion. Even the senior officers among the prisoners take note, compiling informal reports of the hospital conditions and ration quality, comparing them quietly to the desolation and improvisation they left behind on the Eastern Front. Meyer's own experience crystallizes during a routine checkup. Dr. James O'Connor, an army physician in his late 30s, examines his wound, asks calmly if the pain has subsided, and prescribes an ointment without hurry or scolding. Meyer watches in silence, struck by the contrast to the cold indifference, or worse, the sheer neglect, he remembers from German field hospitals. The emotional dissonance gnaws at him. Relief and gratitude fight against years of indoctrination. The enemy is supposed to be ruthless, cruel, and uncompassionate. Yet here, under canvas and behind fences, he experiences a mercy that feels almost unreal. That night, as he lies on a clean cot with crisp sheets, the distant rumble of freight trains carrying American supplies mixes with the gentle clinking of medical instruments being sterilized. Maya stares at the ceiling, pondering the paradox. The same nation that dropped bombs on Europe now heals the men who fought against it. A reluctant admiration grows among the POWs. They begin to recognize not only the strategic precision of their captors, but also the ethical framework that guides them. A strict adherence to the Geneva Conventions, but executed with efficiency, skill, and genuine concern. Letters continue to leave the camp, censored but honest enough to convey the shock and gratitude of the prisoners. For Meyer and his comrades, these experiences leave an indelible mark, shaping their understanding of humanity in the midst of war. They begin to speak quietly among themselves about honor, ethics, and the strange dignity afforded even to enemies, a reflection that will echo long after the war's end. October 15th, 1945, Camp Aliceville, Alabama. The war in Europe has ended, yet the echoes of conflict linger in the skeletal frame of the POW camps. Unteroffizier Karl Meyer walks slowly across the camp grounds, his uniform exchanged for civilian clothing, observing the hospital wards now quiet, their cots empty but immaculately arranged. He pauses at the door, recalling the first days of arrival, the shivering, the fear, the disbelief that anyone could treat enemy soldiers with such care. Nurse Evelyn Harper steps from the ward, a small smile on her lips, and nods in recognition. Meyer hesitates, then offers a stiff salute, the gesture awkward but sincere. Around him, other German POWs share similar contemplations, speaking softly about how the experience transformed their understanding of the Americans and the very nature of warfare. Many write final letters home, not merely to report survival, but to convey gratitude and astonishment. We were treated not as enemies, but as human beings. I cannot forget it, one note reads. In the weeks following repatriation, former prisoners recount these experiences to families and peers, struggling to reconcile years of Nazi indoctrination with the unexpected kindness they encountered. The care provided, penicillin for infections, adequate rations, clean beds, and attentive medical personnel, becomes emblematic of a larger lesson. Even amidst the machinery of war, ethics, compassion, and professional skill can coexist with military discipline. Veterans of the American Medical Corps are lauded quietly for adhering strictly to the Geneva Convention, yet for the German POWs, their legacy is profoundly personal. Meyer and others carry home more than physical recovery. They return with an altered moral compass, a recognition that humanity need not be surrendered on the battlefield. Years later, reunions and memoirs capture the enduring memory of those hospital wards, where fear was replaced by care, pain met with competence, and the enemy revealed a capacity for mercy that had once seemed impossible. The POW's astonishment and gratitude ripple across decades, shaping post-war understanding between former adversaries and standing as a testament to the power of ethical conduct, even in the darkest chapters of human conflict.